Hello and welcome to another advanced skeleton video. In this video, we're going to take a closer look at lip syncing. Now for this demonstration, I have downloaded a sound clip from YouTube. And this YouTube video clip is called The 100 Most Iconic Movie Lines of All Time.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist.
Now, one of the common approaches to doing lip syncing is to be using phoneme controllers. Now, phonemes, if we look up the definition on the internet, is the distinct units of sound in a specific language. Now, these units of sounds, or phonemes, create particular mouth shapes. And to achieve these shapes, we have a phoneme controller here on the Advanced Skeleton face rig.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled.
Now, the lip syncing that you're seeing here has been created using a new function in Advanced Skeleton called a auto Lipsync. Now, this function is calling a open source tool called the Montreal Force Aligner, which is a tool that can take an input of a text file along with a sound file and can return the start and end timing for each word. And this Force Aligner in particular actually returns the start and end time for each phoneme, which is really useful as we can apply that information to the phonemes controller. Now I'll show you here how to set up this scene with the lip sync using the sound clip from the 100 iconic movie lines of all time YouTube clip. So let's go ahead and make a new scene. Now there's a variety of tools that you can find online that will let you download YouTube clips as audio files. Once we got that file downloaded, we can drag and drop it straight into Maya, and we'll see that the audio clip is now on our timeline. And then we're going to bring in one of the demo rig characters, and for this we're going to use reference. So we now have our character here, and we got our sound clip on the timeline. The next thing would be to open up the selector or the picker interface and go to the animation drop-down menus and choose auto lip sync. Now, if you're running this for the first time, you're going to get this message that in order to run this function, you need to download the Montreal Force Aligner open source tool. Now, you can do this automatically by hitting the download button. If for some reason that does not work, you can go to the script editor here, and that will have all the information how to manually download the Montreal Force Aligner. And once that download is complete, the interface is going to look like this. And what we got here is first a couple of options, which is adding some idle motions as you're applying the lip sync. Now, these are some subtle movements in the eyebrows and the eyes and blinking, which just adds that little bit of motion to the character's face as you're working with the lip sync, since having a completely static face makes the lip sync look rather odd. Now, this is optional and you can turn it off if you want. Now, next there's a text field here where it says the dialogue text goes here. This is where we need to enter in the text of what is actually being said.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled,
which we could do by typing in all the dialogue manually. Now, if you fancy automating that, you can look into finding some tools available from Google through the Google Drive that allows you to provide a sound file and get it converted to text with a fairly high amount of accuracy. But if your dialogue's not very long, it might be quickest just to enter in the text manually. Now, as for our sample clip here of the 100 most iconic movie lines of all time, I converted this to text using an online demo version of the IBM Watson online speech to text demo. And I got the text. Now, once we got the full text that matches the sound file, we'll just go ahead and hit the Run Auto Lip Sync button. So that has now added some automatic lip sync for us, and it also has created this subtitle object over here, and we'll see as when we play the clip.
Life was like a box of chocolates.
The subtitles box indicates where we are in the text. Now the arrow in the middle here is the indicator of the current time, so whatever is directly below that is what's being said.
You never know what you're gonna get.
Get busy living, or get busy dying.
What we can do right now, since we've referenced in this character, we can go ahead and just use the reference editor to easily swap over the character to any other of the demo characters.
Houston, we have a problem.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
You talking to me?
The first rule of Fight Club is, you do not talk about Fight Club.
I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
Greed, for lack of a better word, is good.
Show me the money.
I drink your milkshake.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore! Are you not entertained? You shall not pass!
Yeah, who's on first, what's on second, I don't know who's on third.
Elementary, my dear Watson.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Phone home.
There is no place like home.
Now what we're seeing in the subtitles is limited to the size of this subtitle box. Now if you want to see more in front and behind of what's being currently said, you can adjust the scale of the box and thereby see more of the text in front and behind of what's currently spoken.
Greatest trick the devil ever pulled.
Next, let's have a look how we can update just a segment of the timeline.
In this world, there's two kinds of people, my friend. Those with loaded guns, and those who dig.
Now we can see in this particular case, the lip sync gets thrown off by the sound effect of the gun being loaded.
Loaded guns?
Now here's the click of the gun being loaded, but it has interpreted that as being the next word, which is those. So let's go ahead and update only this segment. And the way to do that is by shift-click dragging on the timeline to highlight the segment that we want to update. Now first we'll just do the segment where the click is. And we're going to completely empty out the input text box. And then we're going to hit Run Auto Lip Sync. Now what that's going to do is going to clear out any lip sync that exists in that particular time segment. Note that when you're working with time segment, that all the time following gets affected. So as we are adjusting the lip sync at this point in the dialogue, all the following dialogue is cleared out. So for any time segment adjusting, it's important to start at the beginning and work towards the end. Next, I'm going to highlight the segment of the time where the word guns is being said.
Guns?
And type the word guns and hit Run Auto Lip Sync. And then we're going to do the end part of the segment, which is where he says, and those who dig, which is this part of the timeline. And we'll input the text. And again, Run Auto Lip Sync. And this segment should now be working.
Those with loaded guns, and those who dig.
Now that's it for this time. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.
Hasta la vista, baby.